Well, hello there, my beautiful souls. I've been podcasting for over 15 years now. And I just realized, okay, my agent realized I keep forgetting to tell you about something super important. I'm also a keynote speaker. I bring big energy, powerful shifts, and inspiration to audiences all over. So if you're planning something fabulous and you want your crowd to shine brighter than ever, head over to sandyjoyweston.com and check out my speaker page. Let's make some pure joy together, baby. Hello, hello, my hey, I got something to say, people around the world. All right, big announcement. For some of us, it's Thanksgiving next Thursday. Right, Kath? Yeah.
Correct.
So say hi to Cathy Perez. I was going to introduce her later, but she's there with her happy hands. So I was like, we got to bring her in. How you doing, Cathy?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Wow. I'm very excited to have you and tell your story. But next Thursday is Thanksgiving, so we will not be doing a, hey, I got something to say because of Gobble Gobble Day. For the other people around the world, you know what? Maybe I'll put like a past one up, but who knows? Anywho, thanks for being here. We really, really appreciate it. And I appreciate all the support throughout the years. Cathy, do you believe I've been podcasting for about 17 years? It was like radio show then, but it's
That's
changed.
remarkable and more that's a big deal actually. So congratulations.
It's crazy. It's crazy talk. But before we get into, me, I'll go off on some tangent. Let me tell you about Cathy Perez. Cathy has been a lifelong lover of all things related to health and wellness. Why did I want her on the show, right? She became a wellness coach so she could share her lifetime of wellness experience with her fellow female activist. Wellness is empowerment, and that's what females deserve, with an exclamation mark. And usually I don't like them overused, but I think it definitely is deserved, Cathy.
For sure. Thank you again for having me. I appreciate it so much.
So, Cathy, before we get into the one thing you want to tell women around the world, I do want to share just a little bit about what we were chatting about before we went live. And that is, tell them what you did before you moved back to Arizona.
So yeah, so I from a childhood, I blame my mother. She's in heaven now, but she loved everything Walt Disney. And so I grew up loving everything Walt Disney. And so much so that by the age of 10, I knew I wanted to work for Walt Disney. And so I, in college, got the chance during the college program, and that was a long time ago, but I did it. And then went back to it as an actual career professional. And for almost 4 years, I worked so I previously worked for Walt Disney World for one summer. And then again, when I became an adult, I worked for the Walt Disney Company at the Disneyland Resort. And that was pretty spectacular. So I got to live my dream, so to speak.
By the way, this is really wackadoo. So I've been to Disney maybe twice, you know what I mean, and Universal once, and I really, really liked it. But I was just doing a podcast with a woman, and she was very professional, and she does sales and entrepreneurship. And when you speak with her, she was dressed in her suit, and everything was. She's amazing. She's brilliant. And then we talked about where she was going over the holidays. And all of a sudden, she broke out into another human being because her and her daughter were going to her happy place, which they do every year. And guess where it was?
Disneyland.
Yeah. And this is the part. I think they were there for like 2 weeks. I'm like, is that possible? I
It
mean,
is. It could be. Yeah.
I know they were trying to fit her, and then she's like, it was action packed, like her daughter. I think it was 2 weeks or 10. Like, daughter would get her up early in the morning. Not meantime, the daughter's like, keep in mind, late third, like we're not talking kid, right? And they would get up early in the morning and then go, go, go. And she'd have to make an excuse to take a nap because it was just, they wanted to get everything in. Do you need 2 weeks? Am I missing something?
Well, to be fair, right? Especially Walt Disney World, which is literally a world because it's like it is a world. It has its own fire department. It has its own utility. Like it is its own world. So Walt Disney definitely you would have 2 weeks and still not have enough time to see everything. Disneyland, however, is a lot smaller, but to their credit, they probably have a lot of insider Disney magic that they get to attend to. Like a lot of people don't even know that a five-star restaurant actually exists in Disneyland and it's Club
Ooh.
33. And so like that's a big deal. So you could easily go to the park and then hang out and have a five-star restaurant experience and then go hang out. But to their point, I'm sure they found a way, but it's just a lot of fun. And at the very least, I'm sure they just had a lot of different experiences that they got to hang out with. But I hope they did see the rest of Southern California because it's gorgeous.
No. But okay, my last question is then, while your mom was here on Earth, did you go every year with mom
Not
too?
quite, but we did quite often. And then one of my biggest honors, and like that was why I wanted to work so much for Walt Disney, because as a cast member, people who are staff of Walt Disney are called cast members. Us cast members will have a certain amount every year of passes that we can give to family and friends, right? As we're cast members. So the year before she transitioned, I got to get her into the parks for free. So that was a big moment for me. So it was a lot of fun, and we had a wonderful time actually. And that was a dream of mine, and I got to fulfill it. So I can only say thank you to Walt Disney.
I'm a little sad now that I know this.
Oh,
I don't even know how we got into it, that you have no Disney ears on. Like, where's the Mickey ears? I mean, I want I want to know. All right.
I
Well,
have. I got to actually uh, I got to go to Club 33, which is like again very exclusive, twice. And that actually because I was a cast member, but simply because of other people that had the availability. So I do have at the Club 33 um, pin,
Mhm.
but only people who know about Club 33 know what that is. But you are correct. I actually don't have any ears anymore. I have my pin, my actual name tag, but I don't actually have own any ears that I know of.
Okay, we'll have to look into this. All right, now
Exactly.
maybe we should talk about a little what we're here for. Cathy, I don't know. I find that fascinating. So, you guys know, I always ask, what is the one thing you want to tell women and the men that support us around the world? And your thing, which I love, but I want you to go into more detail, is empowerment is an inside job. So,
Absolutely.
I'm sure they have an idea what that means because these are people that really seek self growth and I love them. They come from peace, love, and joy a lot. But I want you to give us your explanation of what this means to you.
So thank you. And definitely, what I meant by that is that I think too often because of just society in general, right? Civilization, let's put it, right? We all know that as humans, we get to be connected to one another. That's how we survive. And that's also how we obviously grow. Um, but too many people, I think, forget, especially women right now, that our empowerment comes from the inside out. Like we are not empowered simply because of our connections. We are empowered because of who we are, our inner essence, right? So from the moment we're born, we have empowerment. We just get to exercise it. And because of societal norms, right? I think, unfortunately, especially in the female world, people forget how much power they have. So it's important to realize that empowerment comes from the inside, and you can exert your empowerment. You can exert and give empowerment to others as well as give it to yourself.
Okay, so let's stay with that before we move forward. I know that so many people will say to me, and they're going to write in and say, I get this all the time. I understand that logically, But because I'm a big fan of daily practices and what gets you into that mindset, what can you advise people, like something that they could do today? Like they walk out today and they leave this podcast. What could they do today to remind them of that? Like
Sure.
an exercise or something, or tool or tip or technique that they could do.
Absolutely. I'll give you several. So first off, every decision, right, that someone makes, you can seek out advice. And that's actually probably preferable, right? We have so much information and it behooves us to get proper information. But every decision that you and I and everyone listening makes, that's empowerment of themselves because your decision is exerting empowerment. Like you are showing others that through your decision, you are empowered, right? So that's one way.
Yeah, let's stay with that because I
Oh,
want you to
sure, sure.
explain a little bit more to me about that. Because I
Yeah.
read that and I was like, wait a minute. Okay. So I know what you mean. Like you seek advice. I
Hmm.
have my mentors, my guides, but ultimately, how I make my decision, it's really me sitting with it, and I sit with it and what's right for me. Now, I don't know if everyone does that. That's why I want to be clear on this when you're saying every decision you make is empowerment. So you know how some people makes this, well, we all do at times, but we make decisions and then you're like, I didn't even want to do that. What I thought I wanted to, but really it was because of the pressure that I wasn't even realizing from others or society or family. Not that they were forcing me, but I think it made me feel good to make the decision. So that's why I want to stay with that because I think we all can fall short of that.
Absolutely. And that's kind of where the societal kind of norms come in, but to dig a little deeper, when we make a decision, that's what our brain wants. Like our brain, and you of all people would know this, right? It's linear. It wants to go from point A to point B as quickly as possible. And then to do so, it needs to have a path to go on to do so. So every time we make a decision, and again, a lot of our um, decisions are habitual. So our brain is saving glucose, right? But to get back to
And
when,
brain. Go ahead.
right, when we make a decision, whether good, bad, or ugly for us, right? When we make that decision, our brain now has closure, right? And it can say, okay, I'm moving forward. And so that rumination ends, and our mental fitness at least can take a moment and say, I have a decision, and now I'm going to go forward. Regardless of how that decision ends up, your brain now has more ease and flow. And that brings empowerment because when we're in our sage self, i.e., I made a decision and now I'm going to move forward and activate,
Okay.
it's easier for us to exist, right? And so empowerment comes simply by saying, I made a decision, regardless of how this turns out, hopefully, in the
Well,
best way
yeah.
possible.
Right.
I made a decision, and that meant that I trusted myself. That's empowerment.
Okay. So that's going to lead me then, Cathy, to my first question because it's right on point. Dear Sandy, please ask Cathy, what the heck is this about? I love that. For the life of me, in the last 5 years, cannot make a decision. I mean, we're talking about where to go to eat for dinner, what to order off the menu. I just want the waitress to pick. What friends to hang out. Are we going to the party? Aren't we going to the party? Like things that are ridiculous. Forget the big things. What the heck is going on? I just can't make a decision to save my life.
Wow, interesting. I like that question. So thank you for who
And we'll
sent
call her
this.
Sally Bell.
Sally about. Thank you. So thank you for the question. I don't so here is going to be a really simplistic way to look at this. She decided by not making a decision, that's her decision. She's going to let others make her decisions for her, assuming that that somehow makes her life more ease and flow, more
Could be,
sage.
could be, could
And
be.
I'm not gonna, I'm just, I'm making that assumption in the fact that, she's deliberating, why am I doing this? Well, in some way, shape, or form, I would hope that she can trust herself enough, right, to make a decision because she knows herself best. Her inner essence has not changed since she was born, but she may have forgotten along the way because of society, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
do I really know what's best for myself?
Okay.
She absolutely does. She just gets to reconnect with that and trust it.
And a good point you made. I don't know if this is Sally, we need to
Yeah.
know. Is this for everything? But it could be that, and I deal with a lot of top executives, they're making decisions all day long. Tons of decisions. So when it comes to where do you want to eat dinner? What do you want me to get in the menu? Little things, they're like, I don't care, just make it. And I can tell you, for me, I'm that person. Like, here, I eat anything. Whatever you think's great, order it. I don't want to make another decision. So I can relate to that, but I do make a lot of decisions. If that, like, I just don't care about those enough.
And that's okay. But
That's
I
okay.
yeah, I mean, I think it's important to realize that and that's actually a really neat point, is that our willpower, it's not plentiful. Like it's just like our sleep cycle. Like we get up and our willpower is really high. As we go through the day or whenever we're awake, that willpower dies on purpose because theoretically at some point we're supposed to lay down and sleep again. So the ability to make decisions is quite tasking in
Mm,
itself. So
gotcha.
she makes the big decisions for herself, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And to your exact example, she's letting all the other little baby decisions say, you know what, it don't matter. Let's just move on.
Now, what about the other ones, like the college kids? I was talking to them the other day, and some of them, those are big decisions. Like, what am I going to do for a living? Will I get a job? Is this the right major for me? And a lot of times their counselor, which I understand, will say, listen, it may not be in a year from now, but pick what you resonate with at this moment because it could change. But I do get it because they think it's, oh my God, the biggest decision of their life.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. It's funny to put it in a similar circumstance. I didn't even know what a GPA was technically, right?
Mm.
Growing up until my counselor in freshman year when I was getting ready to, get promoted to the sophomore year, until my counselor told me, and I'm not bragging, but I just happened to be at the top of my class. He told me, "Do you know that you have the highest GPA of your freshman class?" And I'm like, huh? I didn't even know what that was technically. So for people who are young, but I honestly believe we don't actually change. Now our filters grow up, right? We are better at making decisions, but that's still insecurity of not even knowing what a GPA was. And then to be told, oh, I have to make some decisions about this, like how am I going to move forward? That affected my actual psyche there on out
Mm.
through college, quite literally. That one encounter. So for us though, when we decide to make decisions, now I can't say that I made the best decisions because it was all based now on, oh, I got to keep my
Yeah, oh,
standing.
I get it. I get it.
But no, every time someone makes a decision for themselves, however small, that's empowerment because you are choosing, right? And when you choose, your brain, again, is telling itself, I feel safe. Our brains are just trying to keep us alive, as you know,
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
neuroscience level. So every time you make a decision, that's all it wants. It will calm your autonomic nervous system simply because, well, hopefully, right? I mean, that's the idea. But when we decide or not to decide to make decisions, again, we are deciding how much empowerment am I going to give myself, or am I going to, in some way, shape, or form, maybe pass it on. Now, again, in the example of Sally, she's made so many decisions. She's okay giving some of that empowerment away, and that's fine. But when it matters the most, she is making decisions.
Mm. Okay. I just want to make sure I'm clear so everyone listening or watching is clear. Making decisions give you empowerment. And it doesn't matter. I just want to make sure I'm hearing this. the outcome down the road. You know how you make decisions and down the road you go, oh, dang wood, I should have, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that you made that decision.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right. And you did mention something about the brain wants to make a decision right away, and I get it, to protect us, but that's not always a good thing.
No, it's not. And again, what's interesting about, the idea of your empowerment comes from the inside. When we're making decisions in our sage self, meaning like when we're using mental fitness and the fact that I'm staying in sage, meaning I'm not letting the saboteurs of outside forces get to my decision making. When I'm more making decisions out of empowerment, i.e., when I want to better myself in some way, shape, or form, when we come from that place of sage, okay, and not out of fear or flight, we make better decisions either way.
Yeah. So I want you to explain for those, because I do know what you're talking about, but I want to make sure
Right.
they know, because I've worked with people on this.
Absolutely.
What is sage? And then explain the saboteurs and explain where you got that from.
Exactly. So I am working my way to become a certified positive intelligence, positive quotient coach, or PQ coach. And they use that verbiage of sage versus saboteurs. Well, our actual brain is magnificent. We all know this. And in the neuroscience world, we have, i.e., right? I mean, I'm not like a psychology major, but we have, all of us, in our autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic. By virtue of our evolution, because we had to run from saber-tooth tigers and so forth and so on, we are defaulted to think negatively first.
Correct.
And so when we make decisions quickly, it's usually because our brain's thinking we're in danger. That's the saboteurs talking. It's trying to keep us alive, thank goodness, but it's not always, to your point, it's not always wonderful to make a decision split second. When we're in sage, i.e., when we're thinking more creatively, when we're ease and flow, when we're calm, because our parasympathetic nervous system is actually working the way it should, it calms your flight or flight system, and it says, wait, I want to be in ease and flow when I make decisions. Let me take a shower and let the water flow. You're going to get in sage. Let me lay and literally ground myself, like literally lay on the ground somewhere and ground myself before I decide to make a decision. That is major empowerment, because you're letting your sage work to its best benefit, so that when you do make a decision, it probably is going to be a lot more empowering, because you're making it out of your best self and the best advice you can give yourself versus out of fear.
I like that. Okay. And one more time, give us the definition, or your definition of sage.
So sage is basically, in my view, ease and flow, meaning that we're not coming from a place of fear to make a decision. And again, life
Okay.
or death, that's fear. But when we're making most of our decisions as humans, it's not coming from a place of fear, because we're not in terrible danger. We get to come from a place of complete and ease and flow. What is the best decision for me right now, in whatever state I'm in, or whatever the decision is for? But we're not coming at it from a place of fear. It's not to do with fear. It has to do with blameless discernment. What are the options? And what do I think at this moment is going to serve me the best?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Kathy, because I really want them to understand that.
Yeah.
And I had a little knowledge of it because I was in a group with a woman, shout out Elena, and she's from Dubai. I love it. Yeah, I met her. Where did I meet Elena? I think when I spoke in Thailand, I met Elena. But it was all these wonderful women, and she was teaching a course. And I got introduced to some of it. And anything about the brain, I'm all about. Someone was just introducing me to. Do you ever hear of another philosophy from Japan called Ikigai?
I'm not sure.
You got to look it up. And we won't get
I
into
will.
that today, but it's the same. I love when you find a system or a way that resonates with you and your spirit. to understand, how it all works. And everyone always says to me, well, which one do you like them better? I'm like, it's like working out, the one you're going to do and the one you enjoy the most. As long as it's coming from love, I'm all about it. All right, so let's get into this one because I knew we were going to run out of time, but we're going to stay and get into this because I was cracking up at this statement. Females are not just small males. I'll let you go into the rest of it, but let's just start with that. We should have started with that tagline. What's your statement for women and men around the world? Females are not just males. Or small males. I like that.
Right. Well, and that's coming more actually from my health and fitness point of view, right? But to that point, thinking of at least right now, like in the binary term, right? Our humanity, okay, big word there, but we're made up of energy. And at least in my view right now, not discounting all in between, right, from one side of the spectrum to the other, but there's both feminine energy and masculine energy in all of us,
Everyone.
right? And so when women are asked to be powerful and strong and so whatever adjectives you're thinking of in any type of, let's say, leadership role, they're being basically, unfortunately, told inadvertently, be a smaller male. Use your masculine energy to assert yourself in some way, shape, or form. But when we're empowered, we're actually working from our sage, our own self. So originally, I should have said, saboteur can think of it as fear, and your sage is love. So as women, we're not smaller versions of men. We are female. All right. And men, as well as women, carry feminine and that masculine energy. As females, we are so empowered when we step in to our feminine energy as much as we step into the masculine energy. That's what I was meaning. When we go too far in either direction, it could mean, things a little bit out of balance. But society would have us believe that when we go to our feminine, somehow that's not powerful enough. No, when we decide to become more empowered, it's when we step into our feminine energy, because that is extreme power. That is the power of creation. You can't beat that. And when you use that authentically, oh my goodness, you are making better decisions all the time.
I have like a whole nother podcast in my head going on. Because this is awesome. And I really want to break it down so they understand. And I know, especially my audience says, Sandy, we're doing so many things while we're listening to you. You know what I mean? That, they're walking, they're feeding the dog, they're going out running with the kids, they're doing their laundry. That some days they're hearing with half an ear. So they're like, wait a minute. So I heard someone speak on this years ago in New York City. I mean, years ago. And I grasped it, but not totally. And so it was like intriguing to me. But I didn't really get it until years later, but I don't know if I still get it. So I'm with you with the female and male energy. What I don't know is, okay, you're going to go, what? When I'm using one or the other, like, what is it like? Do you know what I mean? Because I always have, who's to say with being a female? Like, who's to say if that's not feminine? Because I'll tell you why. A very lovely friend of mine, I could be girly, but I could also be going out and like I could have a dress on and not realize my legs are like not completely closed and be like, hello, boys. So I feel very comfortable with the male because I've worked around a lot of sports teams and all that. So I'm very comfortable but to me, that is still feminine. So that's why I want to explain more because I'm not sure I think we both have it. Okay, I know I'm not saying it right, but I believe we all carry both energies, but when am I using one or the other?
So
Does
to
that
kind
make
of
sense to you?
no, it does. And it's a very fair question because here's the thing, right? Society says, and it's about norms, right? You're in feminine energy, if you're, using all of the said products to make you feel feminine. Actually, no. Femininity, okay, the energy is that of empathy, is that of, believe it or not, navigating, meaning
Yeah.
using your actual noggin to really feel intuitively. Okay, so intuition. Masculine energy is more, and again, we all have them. It's not like one is better than the other. It's we have them and we should use them hopefully more equally. But masculine energy is assertive, all right?
Okay.
The energy of direction, the energy of I don't want to say action, but more of what's another word I can use? It's more about um, moving forward. I can't think of another word, but you can think of it almost as, again, the sage is very creative and it's very just empathetic and it's using softer energy, is all I can say. When you're in the masculine, right, you're using a little bit more of your linear thinking. And one's not better than the other because you need both to survive.
Yeah.
But masculine energy, unfortunately, has been seen as the more stronger attributes, i.e., for leadership, for any type of, oh, like forward movement. Well, no, there is a place for feminine energy in any particular moment, in any leadership role. And your intuition is what tells you, oh, I need a little bit more of this versus this energy. So it's really is intuitive. And because unfortunately society has decided that it's more important to be more masculine, that's why femininity in that feminine energy is not seen as, oh, well, do I really need it? I don't know. No, you all have it. We have both, and we get to use them equally to help ourselves.
So, just recently, I'm just thinking of this now. One of the most awesome people I know. I mean, she's one of the most loving humans. And I know her through business, but we became friends. And she's a high-end executive coach. And she took a marketing course and she was telling me this the other day. Call her Betty Boop. And the person told her that she's going to scare people and people are going to not want to be around her because she's too masculine. And I was like, huh? Like, I never even got, like, yes, she's a strong personality. Yes, she's powerful, but she's outspoken. But at the same time, she's comes from love. Like, she would never put someone like I, and and yes, she has strong opinions, and normally they're right on, but I could imagine somebody saying that she spent a ton of money, that you're going to scare people when she's very successful, extremely. And I never picked that up from her. Like, I'm like, huh? She's like, yeah, I'm too masculine. I'm going to scare people away. And so I don't know if you've ever heard somebody say that about someone, but
Oh,
that's
absolutely. It happens
really,
all the time. And it usually happens to females because, again, we're not we're not small males, but yet those attributes of strength and directness and
yes.
are only affiliated with masculine attributes. No, we all have them. But because society has decided to take those energies and really divide them based on sex versus just the fact that they're human traits in all of us, that somehow then means, well, if a woman decides to be assertive, that makes her bossy. No, that makes her assertive.
Gotta make sure she watches it because I was like thrown off. I'm like, what are you talking about? You know?
More power to her for being
Yeah,
assertive and direct.
yeah. And She's one of the most loving, kind human
Yeah,
beings you want to meet, you know.
because she's coming from love. She's using sage to be assertive. There's a big difference when someone is yelling at you and they're coming from this really just tone of rudeness and just like domineering versus I'm going to show you how this can get done quickly and correctly.
Mm.
I'm coming at it from a place of empowerment to you, i.e., from love and empathy.
Yeah. I can tell that my husband would always laugh at me, but I've always have been able to pick up energy from a million miles away. Like I can feel people's energy, and I've always been in tune with that. You know, it's my secret sauce. I can feel it. I can tell even if someone's smiling, ooh, something else is going on in there. And I've had different people in my life, and I was trying to explain to them that would be like, Sandra, no, no, we're not, you can't win it, blah, blah, blah. And they're coming from love. You know what I mean? Like that mothery figure in my life, and they're helping me. And I can see all they want, whether I agree with them or not.
Yeah.
It's so much love coming from them that I want to sit and listen, even if I don't do it. I know, which is so different than someone saying the same thing, but you know they're judging you
Yeah.
and you can feel it. And so when they're saying, what made you wear that? Like it's a total, they can both giving you advice, but that's like, yeah, that's coming from judgment.
Yep.
And that's way different.
Totally.
And it's the same thing. They both, one is trying to tell you about your outfit, but the one is like, listen, you know, I just don't. And it's a feeling that every single day, Cathy, that I tell people every single day, I do whatever I can to come from what you're calling sage. For me, it's connect to my heart
Yeah,
of love, peace, and joy. You know, I want to
absolutely.
be, and believe me, I'm not always there, but I want to be more aware when I'm out of it, and where am I making decisions from? Where am I showing up for a podcast? You know, I want to be more on this than the other side. And when I'm there, I don't want to judge it, but I just recognize that I'm there. And I probably don't want to make a decision from there.
That's powerful. I mean, like that would be ideal. That would
But every
actually
day
be very
I have
ideal.
to, I've been doing this. I swear I've been doing this since I was a kid. I can remember doing this since I'm 9 in a different way. But even though it's something I practice every single, it's not like, okay, now I got it down. Every single day I have to do the same thing over and over again.
We're imperfect humans. That's the whole point. But we work through it, right? And what's wonderful is that we get less triggered as we keep practicing it. So empathy is what all of us require, right? And we just get to work at it. It's not going to be perfect all the time. We're not perfect. None of us are.
So, Kat, tell us about your clients, because I know you said you're finishing up one of your certifications, but who do you work with right now? Like, what is your ideal client?
So I love to work with my fellow female activists. So I myself am a very, I am very much into social justice. And so I want to make sure that my fellow female activists understand how to stay in sage, more saboteurs, right? So like I want to make
Ooh.
sure that they can have that longevity. And you know, to be honest, just I only activated technically on June 24th, 2022. That was when the Roe v. Wade happened, or rather Dobbs, unfortunately took out Roe v. Wade. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I get to help somehow. So in 1 year, I was already burnt out though. And I'm like, I found this way, and I had been dealing with, you know, or rather I should say, I really had started to dive into neuroscience back in 2021. So I was already familiar with it, but when I found positive intelligence, I was like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I require as an
Absolutely.
activist. And now I'm going to give it to others, or I should say, help others.
Yeah. Yeah, you must have had a tough few weeks recently.
I think all of us did.
Many of us. Okay. Well, that's enough politics for today. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We didn't even touch it. How can they find you? How can they reach you? Tell us everything, Cathy.
Actually, it's so funny. I'm mostly on like social media. So the you can, you know, my handle is the same on everything. So Cathy Hannah Perez. That's my name. Or you can email me at cathyhannahperez@gmail.com. Believe it or not, that's like the easiest way to get a hold of me. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty simple to find.
Cool.
Yeah. But thank you for asking.
I'm happy to have you on the show. I'm glad we connected.
Thank you so much.
All right, my hey, I got something to say, women around the world and men that support us. Come on, you're going to want to share this episode. You know it, you know it, you know it. So many people will benefit by hearing from this. I'm sitting here and thinking, I've been doing this my entire life, and I'm so blessed that every time I bring somebody on, I go, oh my gosh, I never thought of that way. I never, it's a new thing I learned. Wait a minute. Can you say that again? Oh, now I know what that person meant 40 years ago. So thank you again, Cathy. And you know what I'm going to say. Well, number one, for those in the US, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you enjoy your family or your friends, whatever you choose to do. And until next time, toodles.